Chapter 6, A Suitcase, a Poem, and a City Like a Dream. The plane I took was the most economical one I could find. It stopped several times between Beijing and London. I didn't even know where we were half the time. At one stopover, in a country I still can't name, I needed to use the toilet. But when I went in, I couldn't get out. There was a lock that required a coin. I didn't have one. I didn't speak the language. I didn't even know how to ask for help. I could hear the airport announcements, but I had no idea what they were saying. What if the plane left without me? So I did the only thing I could think of. I made noise. I started shouting, not in panic, but loudly. I recited a Chinese poem just to make noise. I thought, someone will notice. And someone did. A cleaner came over, puzzled, and kindly opened the door. I ran back to the gate, just in time. I had no idea this was only the beginning of an even greater adventure. When I arrived in London, no one was there to meet me. No one in the UK knew I had arrived, except perhaps the Home Office. It was raining, that fine British drizzle, but no one was using an umbrella. I didn't understand why. In Beijing, when it rains, it pours. Umbrellas are essential. If not, you end up soaked through like a wet mop. So I used mine without hesitation, wondering if Londoners had some secret waterproof power I didn't know about. With one hand pulling my suitcase and the other clutching my umbrella, I threaded my way through unfamiliar streets. I'm grateful to all the strangers who lent a hand when I had to tackle the stairs. I kept reminding myself, every step forward brings me closer to my dream, and the thought filled me with excitement. My suitcase kept tipping sideways because I had packed all my books on top, not knowing any better. My parents and brother had carried it to the airport for me, so I hadn't realized the weight imbalance until I was struggling through London. It was my first time on a plane, and London was only the second city I had ever seen in my life. On the way to Victoria Station, I asked 5 people for directions. Strangely, none of them spoke English. Looking back, I suspect they thought I didn't speak English. I'll never know. The last person I approached looked Chinese. I was so happy, but she smiled and said, "Sorry, I'm Japanese." From Victoria, I took an overnight coach to Edinburgh. Sitting next to me was a young British man full of curiosity. I could barely stay awake, but he kept talking, gently, kindly. He seemed amazed that someone like me had come alone to a foreign country, barely speaking the language. Though I couldn't understand much of what he said, I never forgot the feeling. A complete stranger showing warmth to a tired, lost newcomer. When I woke the next morning, I looked out of the coach window and gasped. Wow, this place is like a fairy tale. The young man smiled and said, "This is Edinburgh." I had never seen a city like it. Winding streets rose and fell between ancient stone buildings. It felt like I had stepped into a dream. If God designed a city, I thought, it would look like Edinburgh. At the Royal College of Surgeons, I walked in with my heavy suitcase. A kind lady greeted me. I didn't understand much of what she said, but I tried to follow. She asked if I had money. I said yes, $100. She quietly left the room. I was so tired, I put my head down on the table and fell asleep instantly. When she returned, she gently woke me and handed me 200 pounds. "It's part of your scholarship," she said. I tried to refuse. 100 already felt like a fortune, but she insisted. Soon after, I was taken to Longmore Hospital by Mr. Udi Chetty, a brilliant consultant surgeon. By then, I had been running on almost no sleep for 74 hours. I finally collapsed into bed in the doctor's dormitory. Later that day, I was woken by the ringing of a phone. I was so nervous, I didn't dare answer it at first. But after a few rings, I gathered my courage and picked up. On the other end came a calm, clear voice. "This is Professor Patrick Forrest." I recognized the name immediately, the legendary professor who had accepted me into the program. He must have already known about my English, because he kept it simple. 6 o'clock today. Home, eat. That evening, a colleague took me to Professor Forrest's beautiful home. Lady Margaret, his wife, greeted me warmly. Years later, I learned she had been born on the same day as my mother. Same day, same year. It felt like fate. Their warmth made me feel like I had arrived in a second home. End of chapter 6.